that question. Yes, there were yes, 64 people died.
My God.
64 people died.
My God. And you mean to tell me you don't have no, as sophisticated as these aircraft are, you don't have no warning signs, descend or ascend, collision imminent?
Bro,
No warning signs, no nothing?
all they have is excuses. I believe that the air traffic controllers dropped the ball. President Trump said the same thing that I said. He said, if the air traffic controllers seem to fail to guide and to provide clear instructions to the pilot, and I agree with him. I already wrote an article this morning and said that. And ABC, with their dumb reporters, I apologize for saying that. ABC reporters are saying where the president is getting that. There was clear communication. Like the media is speaking and defending the air traffic controller, speaking for them. I am telling you, they dropped the ball because it wasn't a mechanical problem that created the crash or the accident. Okay, it's not mechanical. And they are within the airspace, air traffic controllers, airspace. They're within the US. They're not in Timbuktu. They are within a very congested area that a lot of planes. I'm telling you, absolutely ridiculous. I believe that there's a communication failure. I believe air traffic controllers fail to provide clear instructions to the pilot. They spoke with them and said, hey, do you see the plane, the airline? Yes, I see it. That's it. Okay, what happened after that? Well, what did air traffic control do? Did they say, well, you are going in the path of the plane. You are 10 feet from the plane. You are 100 feet from the plane. You need to turn around and go back to base.
67 fatalities.
67 now. Okay, it was 64 earlier. You know, they didn't do anything. They already, air traffic control saw that there was an imminent danger, and they did not provide clear instructions to prevent the danger or the accident. That's my problem. And they're saying they're giving excuses about poor visibility, or maybe the pilot couldn't clearly see what was going on.
Mid-air collision. That is terrifying. God,
it's not just mid-air collision.
God, I hope you were with these 67 people. That is terrifying. Mid-air?
Mid-air, it's absolutely ridiculous what I'm hearing. It's unexcusable. It is preventable. I believe an investigation is warranted. We need to know, we not only do we need to find the black box, but we also need to get the cameras and pull them. We need to know what's going on inside the air traffic control room. We need to know what's going on. And in fact, if there's no cameras in there, then as of today, they need to install cameras in the air traffic control area. Because first of all, it's not a mechanical problem.
It was a military Black Hawk helicopter.
Yes, military Black Hawk. Yes, and they said they usually conduct training exercises, excursion exercises in that area. But at the same time, they are not supposed to be near the airport. He was too close to the airport, and air traffic controllers failed to provide clear instructions to the helicopter. Okay, first of all, we should know within a certain feet, then helicopter is not supposed to come close to a major airline. Okay, if a helicopter, other helicopter or flying machine comes within 100 feet or whatever, or 50 feet of a plane that's about to land, then that helicopter have to wait or whatever the case is. Clearly, they realized that there was a problem, and they did not provide clear instructions. Absolutely ridiculous. I actually wrote an article this morning, a long article, entitled "Air Traffic Control Failures: The Preventable Helicopter Crash Near Reagan National." We have written an article entitled "Air Traffic Control Failures: The Preventable Helicopter Crash Near Reagan National," published in the Neoliberal Post earlier today. In the article, published January 30, 2025, I said the recent collision between a helicopter and an American Airlines plane near Reagan National Airport raises urgent questions about air traffic control's role in preventing such disasters. With millions invested in cutting-edge radar and communication systems, why did ATC fail to steer the helicopter away from restricted airspace? Why wasn't the standard separation between aircraft maintained? At what point did air traffic controllers notice the helicopter's proximity to the commercial airline? Reports suggest that they only became fully aware of the danger seconds before impact. This is deeply troubling. Shouldn't ATC have been tracking both aircraft movements with enough time to issue a clear warning? We need to know what instructions, if any, were given. Did ATC inform the helicopter that it was approaching active flight paths? When did pilot acknowledge seeing the plane? Did controllers issue urgent corrective instructions, such as turning 20 degrees away? In conditions of poor visibility, was ATC proactive in guiding the helicopter to safety? The question is, was this a preventable tragedy? Now, this crash didn't happen due to mechanical failure. That's the first thing. It occurred within the air traffic control zone under the supposed supervision of trained professionals. The public deserves transparency. We need to ask ourselves, one, what exactly was happening inside the ATC tower at the time? And two, was there a miscommunication or a delay in response? Three, were controllers distracted, overwhelmed, or simply negligent? The aviation industry must address these concerns. More oversight is needed, including cameras inside air traffic controllers or control centers to ensure proper protocols are followed. Now, let's turn our attention to the erosion of passenger confidence. As someone who already experiences anxiety while flying, this incident further erodes confidence in the safety of air travel in the US. Of course, some time ago we learned of the accident, of the catastrophe in Brazil. We said no, never. It will never happen here. It hasn't happened It's been 16 years. Nothing like this has ever happened. And of course, with all its resources and technology. So I mean, if ATC, with all its resources and technology, cannot prevent such an avoidable disaster, how can passengers trust that similar mistakes won't happen again? This event should serve as a wake-up call. Air traffic control must answer for what went wrong, and reforms must be implemented to prevent future tragedies. Until then, the public has every right to question whether the system designed to protect us is truly doing its job. Of course, I submitted this article in the Neoliberal Post, which was published earlier today. You can visit the Neoliberal, RenaldoCMcKenzie.com, to read the article.
Helicopter carrying 3 military service members over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., while on final approach to Reagan National Airport. Both aircraft crashed instantly and were immediately submerged into the icy waters of the Potomac. Real tragedy. The massive search and rescue mission was underway throughout the night, leveraging every asset at our disposal, and I have to say the local, state, federal, military, including the United States Coast Guard in particular, they've done a phenomenal job. So quick, so fast, it was mobilized immediately. The work has now shifted to a recovery mission. Sadly, there are no survivors. This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital and in our nation's history, and a tragedy of terrible proportions. As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us so suddenly, and we are a country of we are in mourning. This has really shaken a lot of people, including people, very sadly, from other nations who were on the flight. For the family members back in Wichita, Kansas, here in Washington, D.C., and throughout the United States and in Russia, we have a Russia contingent, some very talented people. Unfortunately, were on that plane. Very, very, very sorry about that. Whose loved ones were aboard the passenger jet. We can only begin to imagine the agony that you're all feeling nothing worse. On behalf of the First Lady, myself, and 340 million Americans, our hearts are shattered alongside yours, and our prayers are with you now. And in the days to come, we'll be working very, very diligently in the days to come. We're here for you to wipe away the tears and to offer you our devotion, our love, and our support. There's great support. In moments like this, the differences between Americans fade to nothing compared to the bonds of affection and loyalty that unite us all, both as Americans and even as nations. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. That icy Potomac, it was a cold, cold night, cold water. We're all overcome with the grief for many who have so tragically perished, will no longer be with us. Together we take solace in the knowledge that their journey ended not in the cold waters of the Potomac, but in the warm embrace of a loving God. We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas. But we'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one. We'll be working tirelessly. He's a great gentleman. The whole group these are great people, and they are working tirelessly to figure out exactly what happened. We will state certain opinions, however. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration. This was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, actually their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened, because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation is government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So I had to say that it's terrible. Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So we all saw the same thing. We've seen it many times. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary, very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as.
We're listening. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. We're listening to Donald Trump, a live
for some reason
comment or presentation by the commentary by the president. A live presentation by the president.
Obviously, when they hit, but pretty much the same height.
commenting on the disaster
at an angle that was
in D.C.
unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, "Do you see?" He was talking about, but there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, "Follow him in," and then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in, that means like everything's fine. Follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold but clear, and clear as you could be. The American Airlines plane had lights blazing. They had all their landing lights on. I could see it from the Kennedy Center tape. We had a tape up on the Kennedy Center. That seems to be the primary. Thus far, I'm sure we'll see other tapes because it's such an area where there are a lot of cameras looking up into the air, into space. So we'll probably see many other shots of it before too much time goes by. But we had a situation where you had a helicopter that had the ability to stop. I have helicopters. You can stop a helicopter very quickly. It had the ability to go up or down. It had the ability to turn. And the turn it made was not the correct turn, obviously. And it did somewhat the opposite of what it was told. We don't know that would have been the difference because the timing was so tight. It was so little. There was so little time to think. But what you did have is you had vision. The helicopter had vision of the plane because you had vision of it all the way, perfect vision of it all the way from at Kennedy Center where the tape was taken. And for some reason, there weren't adjustments made. Again, you could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned. You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going and then made a slight turn at the very end, and by that time it was too late. They shouldn't have been at the same height, because if it was at the same height, you could have gone under it or over it, and nobody realized, or they didn't say that it's at the same height. At the same height, which still wouldn't have been great, but you would have missed it by quite a bit. Could have been 1,000 feet higher, it could have been 200 feet lower, but it was exactly at the same height, and somebody should have been able to point that out. So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me, from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense, some really bad things happened, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened. So you had a helicopter going in an identical direction. You had a helicopter that was at the exact same height as somebody going in essentially the opposite direction. You had a plane that was following a track, which is a track that every other plane followed. And I don't imagine, I know I've heard today that they might have been following the preceding plane, which was pretty close, but not that close, the preceding plane. But you wouldn't have even been able to see that because of the direction that the helicopter was coming in at. So you had a confluence of bad decisions that were made, and you have people that lost their lives, violently lost their lives. We're going to take a few questions. I'd like to ask our new Secretary of Transportation.
We will leave the proceedings here, and we'll try and get some questions from the president. So wait, hold on. You're saying that President Trump's presentation just now, or press conference, you're saying that he was politicizing the issue. Yes. He was not being presidential. He was being political. That's Renaldo. Not the first time it happened. They never present. When they had the crash in Washington, not Washington D.C., Baltimore, at the port, I was watching Fox News, and everybody came on there. You know what they said? Why it happened, Renaldo? What? When the black mayor came out, they were attacking him, saying, "Oh, look at this little black mayor, hoodlum, but he's a mayor." That's the reason why it happened. I'm telling you right now, the DEI issue that you're talking about is not the DEI. You're talking about, oh, they give us money to this and services to invest in these things and this one position and stuff. No, Renaldo, they are attacking it, saying that because of DEI, we have people who are black who are in position of power and leadership. And the reason why we have a breakdown of systems and a clash or anything bad happen is because of DEI, which is because you have black people in position of power. That's what they're trying to say. This is why I'm against it. Well, the question is, the people who were in the towers, are they people who benefited from DEI? The air traffic controllers were working last night. Are they people who benefited from DEI? Were they black or brown? Were they of low income status? Or were they people who did not benefit from DEI? Or what were they? I mean, well, we don't know. We can only make an assumption. No one wants. Renaldo, they don't want to hear that. President Trump don't talk about that. Fox News is not going to say that. The only thing they're going to say is the reason why it happened is because of DEI. Point blank. Well, I mean, he made reference to DEI, but he also made reference to the point to other things. Okay, I mean, and he said he did say that they're going to investigate it, but he spared no chance to the political. So yes, I agree with you on that front. I don't believe it is. I mean, he strongly believes that the academic and educational levels of people in the towers may have something to do with what happened today, and he believes that part of that stems from the policy that has created safety issues. So I mean, that's you can look at it like that. You sound nice and amazing when you say it that way. I am being very, Ricardo. I am trying to be I'm in the middle. I'm trying to be fair to all point of views because we won't get to the answers. Well, he didn't just come out and say DEI. He had released a press. Yeah. I'm watching it right now. Well, he said it earlier. I mean, he said it today in the press conference. Jumping over the fact that the Baltimore bridge collapsed was also DEI. Are you agreeing with that analysis or assessment? Oh, he said that? What do you mean, oh, he said that? It happened. It was on, they had a DEI mayor. Renaldo, you don't understand what's going on. They're using every opportunity. You might be wrong. So that they are stating the reason behind these corporations and everything. Renaldo, they are slowly. It's race. That's what I'm trying to say. It's racism. They're slowly trying to peel away so that they're trying to say that think twice before you hire a black person to lead a company. Think twice before you're going to put a black person to do that. Because they're trying to, right now, they are creating a racist system and structure so that they could prevent people like black people, saying that the reason why we're in position, even though when 9/11 happened, there was no DEI policies. During back when Pearl Harbor, there was the DEI, but nobody's talking about that. They don't care. They're gonna jump around that and dilly-dally around it. But I'm telling you, they're having a system of racism. That's why they're trying to go back in the day to when America had no black people working in position of authority. They're eroding all. Well, I mean, it's difficult to do that because now we have history that and books that is showing unsung heroes like that the black women who were instrumental in coming up with the calculations necessary for us to the first lunar trip, and and I think that was true. And I think you're right. That was the people that voted for Trump said that we have these black we never made it to the moon. That's what they're saying. I was talking to one of Trump's voters. We didn't make it to the moon. So that's what they're saying. Conspiracy theories that we didn't make it. So these black women didn't do anything, Renaldo. You don't understand it. Well, I mean, I know they're attacking critical history. Any history that any history that any history that critically analyzes and assesses the contributions that other persons have made. If certain people don't make contributions to history, then that's not history. It must be hidden. It must be removed, so that we can continue the history that we have today. that praise a particular people and continue privilege. Um, Donald Trump talked on the campaign trail. He talked about dogs eating, or Haitians were eating dog or something of the sort. And that defined his campaign yet. And now he's so it's also gonna define his presidency. And that's exactly what people voted for. Okay. So but the fact of the matter is my point is that I believe that there was a failure by the air traffic controllers dropped the ball because we have the technology in the air traffic control centers that should be able to not only rely on visible eyesight, but also the data that shows positioning and direction and what's going on. So I don't understand why they did not provide clear instructions for the helicopter to turn around in a particular way and to go back in a particular way. I think that is missing. I want to find out if there are cameras inside the air traffic control room that we can help to determine what happened in the air country in the control room. Um, I'm hearing that all of a sudden they can't find the black box. Okay, they can't find the black box. That is kind of interesting. But I don't think we need the black box only. I think they were within because they were within the air traffic control zone. Where they are there in DC, lots of cameras. But I also need to find out what is going on in the air traffic room. The air traffic room. What's going on there? Don't they have the technology to see on the data this on their screen where planes are, where all these things are, and to provide? I say, wait, no. And first of all, the helicopter shouldn't be within 100 feet of a landing plane, of a passenger ship. They keep saying, oh, it's a congested area. Fine, if it's a congested area, that's why you have air traffic control to help monitor and to prevent any kind of catastrophe like this, to give clear instructions.
Gabe, is he disabled? Was he a black man?
I mean, I don't think the matter is, I don't think diversity, equity, and inclusion dumb down the requirement or dumb. It does not. Like diversity and equity and inclusion only provide an opportunity for other people with the same skill set and can do the same thing to come in because the system has a way of preventing access because we live in a very discriminatory society. So diversity, equity, and inclusion that provides a way for people who have certain disabilities or of certain sexes and races to be able to do jobs that white people are predominantly doing is
School. To, to hit your
yeah,
target.
you have to hit your target. You have to be among the best of the best. You have to be among the brightest of the brightest. So but I believe well I don't believe yeah, I don't believe that focusing. I think that is a myopic way of resolving or dealing with the issue. And if we're too myopic, we will never be able to resolve this issue that this catastrophe that has happened. That's why we constantly have 9/11 and so on and so forth, because we politicize issues and we make it and we become very myopic.
Going on the news and being out front, he's politicizing thing. Like you talk about condition pricing in New York, you want to get rid of it. That's not his job. He can't be going into New York City State to say he's going to eliminate condition pricing. That's not his job. He has no authority to go into states and make rules like that. You know what I mean? That's a state law. It has nothing to do with the federal.
Well, I mean, they want federal law in some instance, and they want to do away with federal government. It's too big, and they want to give it back to the state. But there are some things that they want to impose on the state. So if they want to have their cake and eat it, something, whatever the case, whatever that is.
Yes, they want big government. They want big government. They want to tell people what to do. Then you talk about abortion and right to life. It's a state matter, and yet still they're going into the state, telling the state what they have to do. This is just ridiculous. Anyway, I have to drive to the city.
Yeah,
All right.
well, but this is good. This is good. But yeah, this is good. I believe though that that was Ricardo providing a comment and a reaction to to Donald Trump's recent press conference concerning the crashing of the Black Hawk military helicopter, crashing into the American Airlines passenger jet, killing 67. Of course, he believed that Donald Trump had politicized the issue by talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and their fight to getting rid of it and making it and doing and what is known and doing what is known as a pseudo appeal, comparing pseudo appeal of DEI to some or an alleged discrepancy, as if the problem was DEI. But but um, but I agree with Donald Trump in the sense that we need to do an investigation, and something happened in the control room that we need to investigate. I believe that the people who are within the control rooms, who are in aviation centers, must be intelligent and above board. They must be astute, accurate, clear-minded, psychologically and mentally sound, cognitively sound. So we hope that we'll get to the bottom of this. This is the Neoliberal Podcast. We actually have an update on the DC plane crash. They actually have recovered the black box. Earlier when we did the when we carried this this podcast, we had the information was that they could not find the black box. But I understand that they recovered the black box in the helicopter, in the Black Hawk helicopter. I'm not sure if they're able to recover any information that would give them some more insights as to why the helicopter, this retired pilot who is flying the helicopter, why he would fly, why he would disregard instructions of the air traffic controllers, because now they are alluding to that. I don't know if that's true. Not only that, why is it that the helicopter was allowed to fly so close, so close to Reagan Airport, a busy airport where planes are actively landing and taking off? They should have grounded all aircraft surrounding that. That's not associated with any major jet, any major airlines or so on. They should have done that. That was not done. I'm understanding that they did not hire. They have a problem of staffing. These are serious issues, but those are sometimes scapegoat issues. Whether or not you have staffing matters, staffing cannot trump security issues. You can pull from everywhere. Bonuses can be cut. But one thing that cannot be cut and should not be cut is the people in the air traffic control room. And you cannot give an excuse. And I'm happy that they sacked or fired the director. And I understand that Donald Trump has appointed another director. I believe it. I continue to say that air traffic control dropped the ball. And every time you have an incident like this, they always allude to either inadequate staffing or something. Not in certain areas. Certain areas you don't remove the staffing, okay? Because you can't pay them or whatever. You pull from everywhere else, or the directors, you cut their salaries. But there's one thing you cannot cut. There are certain essential jobs that require a kind of staffing. This is the Neoliberal Podcast. We have an update on this news story. There's so much news coming in. I was just speaking with someone who just showed me a news article that's available in PBS. In the article said that heads of TSA, that the TSA, Coast Guard, fired on Trump's first full day in office, and by Wednesday, we are hearing of this catastrophe. By Wednesday, we are hearing of this catastrophe. I wonder if, I know we're hearing that limited staffing could be part of the issue. This is interesting, but Trump was Trump scapegoating DEI as DEI when the day before he had fired everybody in TSA, removed key roles and key personnel, and saying that they're wasting resources. And by Wednesday we are having a crash, and they're saying because the aviation messed up and because of limited staffing, that is why all of the mix-up and confusion happened with this Black Hawk colliding in this plane. This is interesting.
And then you're wondering if that, did you think that the people at aviation deliberately dropped the ball so as to send a message, but would they be so callous to send such a message? But I mean, there's so much. We can't be myopic. I told my brother, we cannot be myopic in looking at the issues. If we are too myopic, we skip the other issues because there are other issues at play. With this story, this news regarding this plane crash is not a simple issue because we have to study the impact and consequences of Donald Trump executive orders. What impact? What is the impact? What are the impact? What impact is it making in society? I know we're saying by the next day we're having big plane crash and all of that. This is quite interesting. I'm going to have to follow up with this. By the way, you can check PBS. It's in the news. This is the Neoliberal Podcast. Here is the full story regarding the crash with the Black Hawk helicopter and the American Airlines passenger jet plane over the Reagan Airport. At 8:47 p.m., an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided with a regional jet in the nation's capital. The crash occurred over the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport, killing 67 people. It's one of the most restricted airspaces in the country, but this particular area has long worried pilots, like retired Army officer Daryl Feeler. Here's everything we know about why that area is so precarious. The 33-mile radius around Washington, D.C. is considered a special flight rules area. Pilots have to have advanced clearance from the FAA to fly there, and the aircraft must have altitude encoding transponders, among other things. Within that, there's a 17-mile flight restricted zone around the Reagan Airport with even stricter rules. And then there are prohibited areas around the White House, National Mall, and the Vice President's residence. But even with the restrictions, it's still one of the most congested airspaces in the country, with civilian, military, police, and other government aircraft constantly operating. So to help manage this, DC has designed or designated helicopter corridors as well as altitude restrictions to keep everyone safe. So what happened during the crash? Flight data shows the Black Hawk helicopter flying south down a helicopter corridor over the Potomac River. Military officials say the pilots were experienced and were conducting an annual night training mission known as Check Ride. Meanwhile, American Airlines Flight 5342 was traveling north toward Reagan National. It was originally supposed to land on runway 1 with a flight path that goes up the river, but at approximately 8:42 p.m., minutes before landing, the jet was told to use a different, shorter runway. Runway changes aren't usual, but it meant the plane had to bow right before turning sharply left and cutting across the helicopter corridor. A move that pilots say makes the jet hard for helicopters to see, especially at a low altitude. There are also questions about staffing of air traffic control that night and whether more people should have been working. Another potential problem was altitude. Helicopters are supposed to fly below 200 feet in this part of the corridor, but flight data shows the helicopter may have risen above 300 feet as the airplane was descending from 400 feet. Officials say data from the aircraft's recording device still needs to be investigated to confirm, but Feller says even if altitude was a factor, something else likely went wrong before that.
Altitude. Confusion with ground lights is what it's called. When you're flying south and you get just to the east of the airport, off to the left is southeast DC. And so there's a lot of city lights, street lights. I-295 is over there, so there's a lot of vehicle lights. What happens is low-flying aircraft will get lost in the background of all those city lights, and you can't see them if they're moving towards you, away from you, or you can't see them at all.
During a White House briefing, Pete Hegseth said this.
Some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DoD and Army level. Army CID is on the ground investigating. Top tier aviation assets inside the DoD are investigating, sir, to get to the bottom of it so that it does not happen again, because it's absolutely unacceptable.
That's where we'll leave it for now. I'm Renaldo McKenzie, the host of the Neoliberal Podcast. And I would like to thank Dante Nelson, our co-producer, Ricardo McKenzie, a senior contributor, Maurice Smith, another guest of the show, Sandria Reason, a researcher and a contributor of the show, and all the other studio guests and those persons who have made this show possible. We want to thank the Associated Press, the White House press team. We also want to thank the Washington journals and those persons and the team that has helped us to make this show possible. I'm Renaldo McKenzie.
Of course, please get your copy of Neoliberalism, my textbook, which is available at store.neoliberal.com. And you can also message me on Twitter at Renaldo McKenzie. Check out our podcast at anchor.fm/neoliberal, available on any stream, and YouTube channel at Renaldo McKenzie. Please check out the new series of Caribbean Thought 2025, which is available on the podcast. And please let us know how we can improve. Subscribe to the Neoliberal Post and send and donate to us. You can visit us at anchor.fm/neoliberal/support and theneoliberal.com. Welcome.